so much for inviting me. I'm honored. When we were deciding on the time for the date for this, and I looked at my calendar and I said, "Oh my God, it's like Hanukkah is like coming right now. What an auspicious moment to be doing our spiritual practice." Because the way that I think about spiritual practice is that we have an inner temple. You know, the story of Hanukkah is about the historical outer temple that is desecrated and then rededicated. But as clergy, it's our responsibility to send people not just to what's out here, but to what's inside, and to be able to find the holiness within, and to ignite the fire inside us so that we can become radiant beings. We can channel the divine flow and shine that light of God into the world that so needs it. And so I wanted to just to look at this line that from the book of Maccabees that says, "On the anniversary of the day when the Gentiles had profaned it, on that very day it was rededicated, with hymns of thanksgiving to the music of harps and lutes and cymbals." So what that tells me is that we're coming around to this kind of, I don't know, like dealing with the PTSD, really, dealing with the places of desecration, the places in us that have been desecrated. And in that very moment, in that very place, we are inviting holiness back into that place that has been desecrated. So one of what I feel like is my prime kind of the commandment that I feel most commanded by is the commandment in Exodus that says, "Vasu li mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham," which God says, "Make for me a holy place. And when you do, then I can dwell there, within you, among you, between you. If you build it, then I will come," is what God is saying. And so that sort of, that sense of the responsibility for building the holy place happens inside me. And I want to feel that holiness inside me. I want to feel it in my body. I want to feel that in my heart, in my mind, in my soul. I want to feel it between me and every other person I'm in relationship with. I want to feel that that's a holy place, that I can invite God's presence in. And I want to feel it in community. But that to me is the work that I want to step up to. So I just wanted to take that phrase and to chant it together with you, to sense, to sense what the work is, to take it on as spiritual leaders, that our job is to create holy space. And I believe that we first need to do that within ourselves, and then we will be able to radiate that holiness and bring that holiness into every space that we come to. But the work that we'll do is the work of the clearing of the desecration and the rededication of that holiness within. So let's just start with those words, "Vasu li mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham," and I chant something so that I can hear it, receive it, rise to it, feel it inside me. And we'll chant it just for a few minutes and allow the commandment to sink in, to be received. Bye.
To close your eyes, imagine breathing into the heart and finding in your heart that holy place. And perhaps your heart has been broken. Perhaps there's been confusion in the heart. And just want to imagine breathing into that temple of the heart and doing a kind of a look around, bringing in the light of awareness into the heart and notice where your heart is unsettled or heavy. And now just feel into the body, to feel like this temple of the body that you are, this holy, light, densified body, and to feel like maybe there's sore places, or maybe there's places that have been injured, and perhaps there's been a surgery or a fear that's been held in the body. And just want to notice those places that have been affected by the stress of life in the body. And then you want to just notice in the mind, what are the thoughts that arise in the mind, and where the negativity bias of the brain starts to take over, places of worry or negativity. So this is the temple that we are. You can open your eyes when you feel ready. That we are this holy place. But at this the darkest time of the year, the dark of the sun, the dark of the moon, we're sent inside to do this work,
of rededication. And the first thing that we do is we find like what has been desecrated. And the desecration is sort of like how the world gets in there somehow, even when we don't want it to. And we're struggling with it, or other people's expectation or negativity, it gets in there, and it ultimately keeps us from being the clear channels that we want to be, that to bring holiness into the world. And so the spiritual practice really is to work with it, And on the handout that I sent, I wrote just some different ways of looking at that desecration, of losing hope, feeling shame, loss of meaning or purpose, addiction, habit, or being on automatic, or a loss of depth, alienation, and the trauma of these times. And it gets in there, and we need to kind of do the clearing and open to a process of transformation, really, of those places within us. Because that same place of desecration is also the place, the potential, holiness, radiance, divine light, but it needs our attention, and it feels as if, Hanukkah is the time not only to bring in the light to those dark places, but also to make space for the miraculous. One of the themes of Hanukkah has to do with the miracle of, I have this kind of mind that's always trying to figure it out. Like, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? How is it going to work out? And sometimes I just need to surrender and open and allow that possibility of miraculous to be there. Reb Einstein used to say, there are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle, and the other is as though everything is a miracle. And the difference between those two is, kind of subtle. That we are kind of live in a world where miracle is not acknowledged, but there's a different way of being in the world where your eyes are open to miracle. And so it feels like Hanukkah is the time to enter into that possibility. So I wanted to share with you a two-part process well, it's actually a three-part, because the first part is just noticing those places of desecration that might kind of manifest as a heaviness in the heart, or a sense of kind of stress in the body, or busyness of the mind. And then we do a practice that invites God or the mystery or spaciousness into those very places inside us. So first I notice them, and then I invite God's presence in. And there is a moment in the book of Exodus when Moses, on his journey, kind of has a realization that this journey is not going to work unless God is at the center of it. And and God, in the story is just sort of saying, I don't need you all. It's like, this is terrible. And Moses realizes this. Oh, we need you, God. We need that divine core center place. And he says these words, Yelech na Adonai b'kirbeinu. So please, God, go within us, in our midst, but also within each of us, that the journey that I'm on is just not going to make any sense unless at the center of it is love. At the center of it is God. In the center is this mysterious presence. But the way our lives get cluttered, it seems, like we get, there's no room for God. I have a spiritual directee, that I was talking to, and she was kind of addicted to social media, and she said, when I'm on Twitter, there's no room for God. And, and I felt like, oh, that's kind of the state of the world in some ways. Like, and the spiritual practice of making room for God needs to be so central, which is to create a kind of a spaciousness at our core that holds in it a kind of an invitation to, that says, I don't want to do this without you, oh mystery, oh miracle. Do you resonate with that? Yeah. So that place that Moses was at that says, no, I don't want to do this without you, because those places of desecration can just eat me up. They can just destroy me. They can just pull me into chaos, into a kind of nihilism, really, and where there's no room for hope. So the practice that says go within us is one that together we will pray and open up those very places of desecration to the divine presence. And so I want to ask you, before we begin chanting, to just put your hand on your heart and to be able to feel the places inside that might need this practice, that might sort of be hungry for that presence. And then, because that's where we're going to put the energy, put the chant into those places of desecration. End of the chant, close your eyes, imagine breathing into the heart and feeling in the breath a kind of an invitation to the divine presence, to the mystery, to dwell inside and between us. And feel that yearning in the body and the soul to have that spaciousness at the center of your being. And as we take in the beauty of that, of these words, just feel it as a kind of a force of clearing away some of the detritus, some of the clutter inside. It's a fire that we light on Hanukkah cannot burn unless there's some air, openness, spaciousness. And also the fire needs our passion, our awakeness, our aliveness. And as with every chant, before you open your eyes, you just notice, what does that feel like? What is the medicine of the practice? What has been touched inside us? So before we kind of go back to our thoughts, we just open up to the experience of it. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes, shine a little of your light out to the other people here in the Zoom room. I have to, whoops, see. I find that the practice of Zoom is one of like can I shine my light into the Zoom room here? Can I see your lights? And so this, it's so easy to get our lights kind of, dimmed by these times. There's another commandment in the book of Leviticus that says, keep the fire burning. Keep that fire burning on the altar. And the altar is not out there anymore, the altar is inside in our hearts. But it's our responsibility to keep that fire of our passion burning. And then the commandment goes further and says, don't let it go out. Don't put it out. So I always feel like there's two sides of that working with our light. Is first we need to keep it burning and to say, well, what is it that feeds this fire in me? And then the second is to have an awareness of what puts it out, so that I can sort of, keep that from happening, And so, so this is the fire of Hanukkah that we are going to be lighting tonight. And we light it and watch it grow, but we also make a commitment to it, to say, like, hey, what do I need to keep my fire burning, really? And kind of with that awareness of what puts it out. And so when I light the candles, I like to stare into the flame and then close my eyes and see that flame inside me. And if I lose touch with it inside me, I open my eyes again and see the flame out here. Because really what we're doing is we're lighting the flame inside. We're doing it out here, but really what we want to do is to light that fire within, which has a tendency to get put out by the winds of this world. So I want to do one more practice before we kind of open up to, exploring what this idea of spiritual practice is. And to say, and this Hanukkah program that I'm giving you today is kind of just as like a example of how the inner work can be kind of, brought forth. It's like we're doing so much work out there in the world, but without the inner work, we burn out, really. So there is this phrase that was that I think is a wonderful sacred phrase to help to light the flame in the place that had been desecrated. The rededication of our own light, which is our own light is also our own soul's purpose, really. We want to light that up and allow the light of it to illuminate the pathway forward. And in my spiritual direction practice with people, I feel like what we're trying to do is to find, why are we here? What's your soul's purpose? And then, as you walk into your life, what is in alignment with that purpose and what is not in alignment with that purpose? To get so clear about, oh, this is why I'm here. And that is your flame going forward. So this phrase actually was sent to me by my dear friend in Jerusalem, Malila Helner, and she found it in a Yom Kippur piyut. And it has this wonderful kind of mixed metaphor in it that says, awaken as a bright light, the rose of the depths. And orer ke'or, which is awaken as a bright light. And the Shoshanat Amakim is kind of taken from the Song of Songs, but Melila translated it so beautifully as the rose of the depths, meaning there is a place inside us that needs to blossom forth. And, and as this kind of mixed metaphor is also in, the description of the menorah, it kind of looks like it has petals and branches, right? There is, in the menorah itself is that mixed metaphor of the growth and the flowering and the branches that hold the fire. So awaken as a bright light, the rose of the depths. The way that I've used this phrase as a practice is that I look inside my heart and I see or I imagine a rose that is tight, that is a bud, that it was so closed up. And the reason it's so closed up is because this world's a little scary, and the most vulnerable place in me wants to hide. But I'm being asked to blossom, to blossom forth, and to like light my fire. Those are the metaphors, really. And so I begin the chant by just noticing the place that's closed inside my heart, that maybe is a little bit fearful or a little bit shut down. And then I'm going to chant this chant to that place in me. And then the practice is in the silence after the chant, I'll return to that image, and with my breath I will allow that image of the bud inside the heart to open, to blossom. So the blossoming as our fire, really. I think it's an amazing image. So let's do that. Let's just be aware of what is closed inside the heart, what is cynical, what is complacent or not quite alive, and we're going to chant to these beautiful words of awakening. Ore ke ornoga, ore ke ornoga, ore ke ornoga, Shoshana hamakim, ore ke ornoga, ore ke close your eyes, bring your attention to the breath. Breathe into the heart and breathe onto that flower, that bud in the heart. And as you breathe into that image of the flower with the next breath, just allow it to open, allow it to blossom. And feel that flower just filling your heart, and the energy of that flower filling your whole body so that it's just sort of tingling with that beauty. And then allow the sense of that flower to shine out into the world through your presence. And before you open your eyes, just plant inside you the remembrance that it's always there. That resource is always there within you. And you can come back to it when you need it. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes, notice the effect of the practice. How does that feel? So I chant every day because it's just so much fun. I get so sort of relaxed and connected through it. And I think with the challenges that we're all facing right now, you need to find a practice that fills you up. And I always say that my leadership is the overflow of my practice. So so if my practice is strong, it will overflow as my leadership, as my service, as my generosity. And to me, that's kind of the formula for not burning out. So, Rachel.
Thank you. So we have some space for some reflection, and you've taken us on such a beautiful journey and really given us this opportunity to have, this space, this gift, this time of chant and meditation. So I don't want to yank us out of that too much, but I'm going to start actually by asking a question of those who are in the room to perhaps if you just to sort of get in touch for yourself as to what has arisen for you by going on this journey with Shefa. If there's a word or a phrase that comes to mind that sort of gives a description to a feeling or sensation, or a kind of an awareness that has arisen, that either is simply just a description or in some way as a response to how this practice carries you in response to what you might have been going through these last weeks, to maybe just put that in the chat, that word, that phrase, that thought about how this practice has been sort of felt during the course of our time this afternoon or this morning if you're on the West Coast.
Calm after the storm. You know, spaciousness and possibility.
Yeah, I think that one of the things after October 7th that was really something, you know, for those who have spent time with meditation or chant meditation specifically, was really asking the question as sort of I had certainly had a different consciousness that I might be bringing with me after October 7th than perhaps in the week to week, where there's sometimes that, as you said, the being on automatic, the going through the motions, of how I could infuse the communal gathering times in my community with something that allowed them to just to really pay attention to what was arising for them, um, whether it be a moment of meditation, a piece, a moment to begin something, or in the midst of the time we were gathered, or whether in fact it was going to reshape and reform the whole of our communal prayer time for a particular gathering. And so I guess, Shefa, for those who maybe don't have this as a part of what they do communally, what are some of the things you might raise up as you talked about the sort of the practice being the sort of the overflow of the practices, is the leadership is where we go with this. But what might be some things that people might want to be contemplating and thinking about how to share what they are experiencing, what they practice with something like this out into the spaces in which they're serving?
When I say that the leadership is the overflow of my practice, the the emphasis on the practice with the faith that the overflow happens, and I don't even know how it's going to happen. It's like I know that if I really take care of myself, if I fill up every day, it becomes more just a natural thing to be in service, to overflow as to be generous. But that takes just a lot of attention to how is, I would, in Jewish terms, I would say, how's my dvekut? How's my connection to source? And that dvekut needs every day, my attention, my practice. And I want to say something about practice is that, with practice comes resistance. And the resistance is also my practice. I can notice the place in me that doesn't want to practice. When I'm chanting, I'm chanting and I'm also looking inside myself and saying to the whole parliament of personality, I'm saying, hey, who's not chanting here? How do I get all of you inside me to be able to enter into this chant? How do I, become wholehearted in my practice, in my presence? And then I might notice a place in me that is kind of like, sulking or afraid or angry, and I'll bring my attention there. So I just feel like at every hard time I've ever been in my life, I'm so grateful that I have my practice to lean into, and so and I know that the amazing work that everyone here is doing and the challenges that we face. So um, the other side of it, of rising to that challenge, is really knowing how to fill up every day with the presence that's available to us. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're describing really, I mean, the chant meditation is the mindfulness practice, which then, if we actually have that as a daily awareness building practice, should, spills over to, the embodiment, right? How we engage with whatever is in front of us.
Yeah, and it's not just mindfulness, it's beauty. It's taking the kind of the riches of our tradition and putting them inside us as the treasures, as the fuel. Um, so there's I feel like that's what the chant, what for me, what the chant does is to take a sacred phrase and charge it up so that it then lives inside me, and it's gonna be there to hold me as I face the challenges of the day. But it's like I may have to do a chant for a long time before it, becomes part of me, really. But then it's just been it was so worth it, the work of getting it inside me, and it's like I become a living Torah, and I want to take Torah liturgy off the page and put it inside me, so that it can be continually nurturing me.